focus on cash, where we get it, how we spend it, and how much we have. I do want to say that previous boards, their policies, their processes have enabled us to continue the financial success that we enjoy. Okay, state of finance. Just a few things here. Some of this we've already discussed, but we continue to have multiple years of improved performance. We did raise the CSF $50, as Chris said, the first increase in total dues in 8 years. The RRF, which is the Replacement Reserve Fund, the goal's been met for the foreseeable future. The CIF, which is the Capital Improvement Fund, has increased to cover identified and potential amenities going forward. Golf and food and beverage continue to demonstrate financial improvement over board guidance that we set as part of the budget process. Investments are positioned to hedge for inflation. You'll hear an investment report after mine. And finally, clean opinion on the audited financial statements from Beach Fleischman CPAs. That's very important to go through that process each year. It supports the integrity of our financial statements and financial data. Financial challenges, you've heard about the minimum wage. Went up 50 cents this year to $11, going up $1 next year. So we'll have to analyze the impacts of that. Related to that is the Affordable Care Act as it relates to employee benefits, and also the Fair Labor Standards Act, which requires us to conform to certain government mandates. Of course, always financial challenges going forward is looking at the cost of living inflation. Keep in mind, labor is a significant part of our expense structure here. It's over 50%. You'll hear more about labor from our general manager's report. We have a lot of employees at entry-level pay, and because the minimum wage, it does impact other pay structures because you have what's called compression issues. So I'll leave that there. The last comment, as I'm sure you know, nationally golf has slipped, but yet you look at our operation, we continue to perform very well. Okay, this slide just shows for the last 8 years, 2012 to 2019, our fee structure, CSF, any assessments and total dues. And again, you can see for 19, the first increase in 8 years of total dues for $50. In terms of sources of cash, obviously the biggest one is the CSF, Community Service Fee, for approximately $4.9 million. A big number here relative to previous years is the home resale fees of $349,000. That is a lot of money, folks. Previous years, though, it's always been in the 200s, 250, 275, but for 2018, a big spike there. Other income includes investment income of $95,000. Again, you'll hear more about our investments. And our golf operation had a net positive cash flow of $220,602. The next slide is the net cash flow expenses. The biggest is the capital funds, the reserve, the RRF, and the capital improvement funds for approximately $1.6 million. Some of the projects, we did the tennis court redo, courts 5 to 8, and some other expenses related to tennis for $384,000. We did the Catalina Rec Center for $251,000. Golf, we did the bunker project on Saddlebrook, and some we got some new fountains and pumps and some other equipment, so that total for golf was $255,000. You have the other departments, administration and services and amenities, and food and beverage had a net negative cash flow of $135,000. This following slide is a 5-year look back on our operating expenses, excluding food and beverage and golf. And you can see for 18, the $3,460,000 is an increase of $190,000. The main areas for that were in general administration, $54,000, common areas, $71,000, and facilities management, $40,000. In terms of the CIF spending, the capital improvement fund, the bulk was amenities for approximately $230,000, which included the Catalina Rec Center for $219,000. The next slide is the replacement reserve fund spending. The amenities, a total of $594,000 approximately. Again, the big number included in that is the tennis for $384,000. The golf of $314,000 included the bunkers and some equipment purchases. In terms of our cash balances for the capital funds, the blue line is the replacement reserve fund. Our ending cash balance was approximately $3.1 million, which exceeds the minimum target that was set by the board of $2.2 million. And we also ended our capital improvement fund cash at about $1,245,000. Projecting the end of 19, the RRF ending cash balance of $3,066,000, and the minimum target of $2.2 million, and the capital improvement fund of $1.3. Finally, the summary page, our assets. You can see our total assets of $26.3 million. It's approximately $900,000 higher than at the end of 17. And over half of that, $500,000 is in cash and cash equivalents, and the balance is in fixed assets. So with that, as your treasurer, I'm happy to say that your HOA is well managed, and I think we're in excellent financial health. Thank you. I'll now introduce Bill Clark and to give the investment report.
Thanks, Marty. Glad to be here. Slide. Or, yeah, that'd be fun. Anybody who's been to these meetings, I'm terribly creative. We're going to go through many of the same charts just to remind everybody. We started out this project 5 or 6 years ago, 7 years ago, and the idea was to set the objectives and set a conservative investment strategy, which we'll discuss in a couple of moments. Slide. The committee members, it consists of 5, 2 of whom are line management, the general manager, Vivian, and Mike Schreiber. Myself, Mike Bodegar. I saw Craig McPherson out in the audience. Thanks, Craig. Vivian, Mike, and Marty O'Shea. Marty was on the committee, now he's the bad liaison. He's like a bad penny, I can't get rid of him. I want to thank Mike Schreiber because once we decide what we're going to do in terms of executing the strategy, he has continued to do a very good job, because trying to find the investments that we need because of the restrictions we have gets to be I'm not going to say it's not an impossible job, but it does get a little tedious because we have a great deal of restrictions on what we can do, so that your investments, and it's kind of outlined through here and on the next slide, we do not take any credit risk whatsoever. We take maturity risk, but we do not take any credit risk. So as a result, we have to hold multiple investments in multiple names. So if you saw our holdings, which I'm going to show you some of them, it looks like we're doing a lot of work that we wouldn't otherwise have to do, but that's been done by design to make sure that we don't take any credit risk whatsoever. It took us a little time, but working with Vivian and Mike, we had to kind of figure out what the cash flow is going to be by month. We try to do this by month. And what we do is we set up what we call a laddered portfolio, where we're trying to match the need or the requirement with some cash maturing or being available in those particular months. So on the left, and this is just a guess, and this is just an estimate, no one should take these as solid numbers, but on the left, for example, in year one, might be the reserve schedule, might be what we need. Our reserves tend to be spent more towards the summer months. And so as you can see in the red, we have high needs, and we have laid in monies and maturities into in this case, March, May, July. This is just an example. And then the following year might be a little different, where we would set it up a little bit differently. Slide. So we operate only in the fixed income markets, and specifically in the CD markets and the treasury markets. We do not operate in anything that isn't government guaranteed.